Good evening and welcome to the Civil Service Commission meeting of August 13, 2008. Can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine?
Here.
Commissioner Gantis?
Here.
Commissioner Carrion?
Here.
And for the record, Commissioner Coleman and Commissioner Manukian are absent.
What's next on the agenda?
Reading of the minutes.
Yeah, reading of the minutes of the meeting of July 9, 2008, and reading of the minutes of special meeting of July 16, 2008. What's your pleasure? Were we all here for both of those?
Yes, we were.
Okay, any motion?
I have a concern about the meeting of July 9th, and starting on page 13 at the bottom, where it says Commissioner Devine said, and ending on page 14 at the end of the first paragraph. I have some problems with the wording and the content of this, and rather than go through and take the Commission's time to look at the individual items, I would approve the minutes if that entire paragraph is deleted. And it only deals with what I'm quoted as saying, which in some places I didn't say it. So I would move that we adopt or approve the minutes, provided that entire paragraph starting on page 13 and ending on page 14 is deleted.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And just to clarify the record, I mean, this is a paraphrasing of what was said. There's no quotations in there, but just a minor comment.
Yeah, do you want the entire paragraph to be deleted?
Yes.
Is that what you say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any objection?
Just let me read that for a moment,
Sure.
please. I had no problem with that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just three minor ones on that I suggest they also be included as part of the amendment in the motion. But on page 5 in the second paragraph, third line up from the bottom, where it said case law to cite, S-I-T-E, should be C-I-T-E.
Okay.
And on page 7, regarding my comment under the motion, midway down through the page, and I checked with Ms. Torres again, and what it did say was Mr. Braden said the motion failed and striking for lack of quorum. I didn't say that.
It wouldn't have been true anyway.
Huh?
It wouldn't have been true anyway.
Yeah.
It just failed.
And then the last one on page 19 in the fourth paragraph, Commissioner Devine asked Captain Davis, is she believed? It should be if she believed.
Okay.
Those are my recommendations
Okay.
regarding changing the minutes.
Those changes, along with the striking of the last paragraph.
Let me ask a question about that. It seems to me, Commissioner Devine, these are comments that you made. They may not necessarily be. Would it be more appropriate just to say that you made further comments, not go into detail what they are? Because you did make some, and I think we're striking it says that you didn't make it, and you did make some. You may not approve of what they are. Just in the general portion, Commissioner Devine made further comments. Good.
I would not agree with that because the comments that I'm quoted or paraphrased as saying, some of the words are changed that I didn't say.
I'm not saying we're going to leave those words. I'm saying all it's going to say is Commissioner Devine made further comments, period. Nothing detailed, but the fact is you did make them, and what they say they are.
Oh, in lieu of this
Yes,
paragraph.
in lieu of
Oh, I'm
that
sorry. I would have no objection to that.
Okay, I think that's more appropriate
no,
because you did say something, you just don't agree with what's said, so let the record speak for itself.
I agree with that. That's called action minutes.
I'm aware.
Okay, changes noted. All the changes noted. Any motion with the changes noted?
Move to accept as amended.
Move to
And
accept.
dispense with the reading?
And dispense with the reading. How'd you know that?
Second?
Here's it.
Move in second. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine?
Yes.
Commissioner Gantis?
Yes.
Chair Carrion?
Yes.
I would also move the approval of the special meeting minutes of July 16, 2008 as presented and dispense with reading of the minutes.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine?
Yes.
Commissioner Gantis?
Yes.
Sheriff Terrian?
Yes. Yes.
I was just curious, I know it's not part of the minutes, but I was just curious if we could ask Ms. Torres how long it took her to prepare the minutes of July 9th.
Days.
Yeah, we've had a discussion on that already, I think.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Da-da-da.
Hey. 2 times tonight. Mr.
That was one
Devine.
for you and one for me. I had it better done, too.
Okay. And we have 2 commissioners missing. All right, next item, please.
Oral communications.
I have 1 card from Dr. Spiritu. 5 minutes. All discussion is limited to items not a part of the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Commission may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision.
Good evening, Mr. Chairperson, members of the Commission, and staff. I am Dr. Richard Espiritu. 2 months ago, when I first appeared before this Commission, I basically shot a volley across your bow. This Commission took heed of what I said. Unfortunately, the staff talked about sensitivity training. They also talked about sexual harassment training. And several weeks later, the city manager said, "We will have 0 tolerance for anything of this nature." I'd like to ask a question, and I'm going to be giving you some documentation on this, everything I'm saying today. Why is there still allegations being brought within the city of Glendale regarding sexual harassment? There have been 5 allegations brought against people from January 1st of 2007 through June 15th of 2008. I know that your major concern is the employees of the city of Glendale. I'd like to ask you a question. What about the employees regarding the citizens of the people of Glendale? I'll be giving you 5 cases that are classified as civil rights cases brought against citizens of the city of Glendale against the police department. One case is regarding an individual who is an Iraqi, a Muslim Iraqi. Another one is an African-American gentleman. And there are also some other cases that are pending that are with Armenian individuals. I actually have the cases here so you can read them. And I have the allegations that were done. One of the cases regarding the African American, a police officer asked him, "Do you know why you're being handcuffed?" He said, "No." And he says, "Because you're black." In here. The other reason...
Excuse me, Dr. Espiritu. Mr. Chairman, if I may ask a question of our counsel. I'm a little concerned, Mr. Braden, that he's bringing up issues that may eventually come to the Civil Service Commission in the form of discipline. Don't know that, but and I don't want to obviously hamper your ability to speak, because obviously you do have that right, and this is not time to be taken away from him. But I am concerned that I don't know the source of these documents, and further comments could be construed as eliminating our lack of bias and create a very big problem if we were to have a hearing on one of those cases. Mr. Braden, am I on the wrong foot? Or I don't want to inhibit what he has to say, but I certainly don't want to destroy our fairness and impartiality on an issue that may come in front of us. And I'm not saying there is one, but it's a possibility.
Well, you're correct. It could influence you, although it wouldn't, unless you felt that you were unduly influenced and thus biased in the case, should it ever come before you, then you could go ahead and hear the matter. The other question is, if there's no discipline pending before the commission, then the question becomes whether this is even within the jurisdiction of the commission. I don't know whether he gleaned these documents from public records or part of lawsuits, or where did these documents come from, sir?
These were part of public documents that I got from the city clerk's office. These are cases that have been settled and are no longer open. They've already been settled or closed.
Discipline cases?
No, these were lawsuits, civil rights cases that were brought against the Glendale Police Department by citizens of the city of Glendale.
Mr. Cantor, let me just
sorry.
quickly jump in here, Dr. Swerdu. I'm one that thinks that people should say and do and have a free 5 minutes to say whatever they want, as long as it's related to civil service. I do have concerns that even if those documents that you're going to provide to us are settled civil rights, that it is possible, I don't know if they ever have, and they're all allegations, it haven't been proven, but it is true that it could actually start an IA investigation within the police department. And if you're going to give me a document that I'm going to review in connection with something that could actually be currently on an IA, just to be cautious, I'd rather not look at those documents if that's okay with you. What I want to do is I want to hear you talk about generalities. I want you to, but when you go specific as a civil service commissioners and wanting to make sure that we are fair to both sides, both the appointing authority and the employee, I'd rather not look at any documents that could interfere with a fair hearing.
Okay.
And that's the only reason I say that we don't want to look at that. If you have any other comments, I mean, please continue, and we want to hear that, but we don't want to look at specific documents because it might actually cause some other issues we don't want to get into.
I appreciate your position, and I will refrain from handing him to the secretary.
Thank you so much.
My statement basically is, I think the Civil Service Commission, since your jurisdiction is the employees of the city of Glendale, should look into the issues that have been brought before the city council regarding the Glendale Police Department. Last night there was an individual who was on TV, made the allegation of racial profiling here in the city of Glendale. I have documentations of that as well, but I won't present that to you out of courtesy to the commission and making sure that you don't jeopardize your positions. My whole reason for coming here tonight is to ask the question, will this commission look into the behavior of the Glendale Police Department, not only regarding employee to employee, but the police department regarding their actions to the citizens of the city of Glendale? And if you would look at last night's city council meeting, I think you will understand what I was talking about. With that, I'd like to conclude and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I think we have an issue. We need to know what the commission's actually specific role and responsibilities, duties, and ability is. And I think we're discussing that on August 27th. Unfortunately, I'm actually going to be requesting that be moved to September 10th because I think we're missing a commissioner, and I think this is important enough that. So I think if you really want to, you can come in and hear if we even have the right as a commission to do investigation on that, and we will get some kind of a legal opinion on that, and then you can make comments on that night if you like.
I will see you on September the 10th.
Mr. Chairman, may I just inquire of our legal counsel, is that legal opinion going to be in open session, is it not?
Yes.
Okay. September, it's set for August 27th, but I agree with Commissioner Carrion that we'll do it September 10th.
Then I'll look forward to seeing you on September the 10th.
Okay, thank you so much. Next item, please. Anyone else? Okay, next item, please.
Recruitment and examination status report.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, the recruitment examination status report is here for you. This indicates all the current activity relative to our recruitment processes, the individual departments, positions, and the analysts who are working on those recruitments are listed there. If you have any questions or any follow-up, be happy to try and answer them for you.
Mr. Gantis?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Doyle, I noticed that under you, we have the Director of Information Services. Did I not get the memo that we're needing a new Director of Information Services?
That is correct. Within the last few weeks, our current Director of IS, Ms. Bickham, has announced her retirement to be effective in November. So hope to get rolling on this recruitment process and ideally have someone on board hopefully by November, but at some point around there.
Okay.
And we'll probably have a bulletin for that and a specification probably at our next meeting to address that.
Okay, great. Anything else from Devine? No. Next item, please.
Eligible list established.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this item are the eligible lists that have been established since our last meeting. You see 4 lists since that meeting, one involving police officer lateral, customer service utility representative for our water and power department, water quality technician and water and power, and a technical staff associate for wireless communications in our IS department. The last one being a promotional recruitment, the other all being open or promotional and open. That, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Talk to GWP as to how they get 378 applicants to apply for a job, and how do they go through it? Anyways, anything else? Just a comment. Anyone else? All right. Next item, please.
Class specification for approval, Assistant General Manager, GWP, Electric Services, Water Services, Supply and Customer Service, and Support Services.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is a presentation of 4 new class specifications for 4 Assistant General Manager positions. Through restructuring with this department, there are going to be 4 new subsections within GWP, and they'll each be headed by an Assistant General Manager. Currently, we have 3 administrators and 1 assistant department head, and the administrators oversee electrical, water, and power, and the 4th assistant department head is actually vacant, and it's been vacant for quite some time. Mr. Steiger, who's the new general manager, has brought forth a restructuring where, again, we'll have 4 major subsections: electrical services, water services, supply, and then customer services and support services, each headed by a assistant general manager. Mr. Steiger is here, and if you have questions for him, quite a number of specifications here. Ms. Klein is here as well, who helped put all this together. And before we get into that, I do want to address one minor amendment on the Assistant General Manager for Customer Service and Support Services. We made a slight modification to the very first paragraph under Essential Functions. So if you could replace what you have with what's been handed out to you and your dais here.
Could you just say what the modification was, just so we have it on record?
Yes. Chair Abkarian, it formerly, that very first essential function used to say directs and coordinates customer service activities with other sections of the utility, oversees utility billing and accounting, credit and collections, call center, and field services. The new language indicates provides management oversight for the direction and coordination of customer service activities with other sections of the utility, including utility billing, accounting, credit and collections, call center, and field services. It's just a sort of a clarification to show the level of this, that they won't be directly managing those functions, but really exercising some general oversight, because there is a manager who directly supervises those functions. So,
Questions?
with that.
Mr. Devine?
I have a couple of questions. The first one, although the Civil Service Commission doesn't get involved with financing and salaries, I was just curious on the one statement you made, Mr. Doyle, on the last sentence of the third paragraph down, where he said that creating these new classifications flattens the organization structure and has a fiscal effect of reducing salary costs. And I'm wondering how that works.
Certainly. The current structure has, again, the general manager, and then there's this vacant assistant. It's currently called Assistant Director of Glendale Water and Power, which is sort of a higher paid job. And then it has the 3 administrators underneath that. And what this is going to do is take that assistant director, move it down a notch, thus having a cost savings, and then you'll have 4 what we'll call assistant general managers. Now, the assistant general managers' salaries will be the same as the existing electrical services administrator and water services administrator and power management administrator. So that's sort of a wash as far as salaries for those 3.
All right. Nice to understand, though. Thank you on that.
Sure.
Second,
It's cute.
Wash.
That's cute.
EWP wash. Get it?
little plan.
All right.
We get another drum roll on that. The second question, I was just curious, I don't know whether Mr. Steiger can answer it or you, Mr. Doyle. These specifications that are made for the assistant GMs, are they the same or close to or different than the existing specifications for the administrators in these positions?
Chair Carrion, Commissioner Devine, the ones that deal with electrical services and water services are very similar. Those are the water services administrator and electrical services administrators. The job functions between those 2 positions and these new assistant general managers for electrical and the assistant general manager for water are almost identical. The more significant changes occur in the other areas, one being the supply and the other being the customer service and support function. Those have some significant changes. If I could, maybe we should have Mr. Steiger give a presentation on his reorganization.
Okay, that will be fine. I do want to follow up on that question,
okay.
but
I'm sorry.
go ahead. Why don't you, if you have any comments.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, let me give you a bit of an overview.
First of all, tell us who you are. And,
I'm sorry. I'm Glenn Steiger. I'm the General Manager of GWP.
Well, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Yes, this is my first time in front of the Commission, and thank you. Honored to be here. I'd like to give you an overview on what it is we're proposing to do at GWP. Matt has done a very good job of explaining generally what it is we're trying to accomplish, but to put it more in perspective of what our focus is at GWP, we're focusing in 3 areas: reliability, supply, and customer service. What these position changes and shifts do is align with those 3 focus areas. Reliability essentially would be the responsibility of the Assistant General Manager of Water and the Assistant General Manager of Electric. Supply is the Assistant General Manager of Supply and essentially responsible for all aspects, primarily of the power supply area, but also the regulatory and legislative activities associated with power supply and water supply. So there's a supply focus there. And then finally, the Assistant General Manager of Support and Customer Services is responsible for our customer service function, our public benefits function, and all of the other support services that currently exist within GWP: IT, HR, facilities, warehouse, and generally the support to GWP in general. So we end up with 4 assistant general managers. It's a flatter organization. It gets me closer to the organization, which I think is very, very important, and it allows us to focus in those 3 areas. So essentially that's what we're doing and why we're doing it, and it does in fact eliminate what had been a position in between that level and my own level, which Matt explained. So we've eliminated that, we've flattened the organization, and we've made assistant general managers at the same level.
Mr. Devine, you had some more questions?
I do, but perhaps I'll wait. I know in closed session we're going to be discussing other issues along with this, or related to this, and I think I'll ask the questions at that time.
Well, but I think the door may be closed by that time. The other issues are going to be dealing with personnel issues, not issues regarding these positions.
Yeah, you can ask general questions as to this particular specification, but if there are questions pointed towards what we will be talking in closed session, then you do want to hold them probably.
Yeah, I do want to hold them.
Okay, why don't we do that then? Anything else from Mr. Stryker?
Move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve second. Can we have a roll call, please? Thank you, Mr. Stryker.
Commissioner Devine?
Yes.
Commissioner Gantis?
Yes.
Chair Carrion?
Yes. Next item, please.
Class specification for approval, fire protection series.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this represents a revision to our class specification for the fire protection series. If you will recall, a few months ago, due to difficulty recruiting, we were seeking to broaden the educational and engineering license requirements for our fire protection series to include other disciplines within the engineering field, such as structural, civil, mechanical, chemical. Commissioner Devine raised some very valid points regarding the title of fire protection engineer and what that indicates both in the industry and what the requirements are relative to calling oneself a fire protection engineer within the state of California. And essentially, his concern caused us to do some research and look up what was appropriate in this regard. And basically, we did confirm that it is inappropriate to utilize the title fire protection engineer if you do not have your state of California professional engineer's license in fire protection engineering.
It is?
It is not appropriate. So what we're proposing is that a parallel series be brought before you called Fire Protection Specialist, which would do many of the same essential functions and duties, still requiring engineering background and the engineering license at the appropriate levels, yet the title for the parallel series, the positions would be called Fire Protection Specialist 1 and 2, as opposed to Fire Protection Engineer. The similar standards would be required as far as an engineering background. The engineering license is required, but just for these titles, we would thus accept another engineering discipline, civil, structural, whatever the case may be. The issue being that we wouldn't be calling them fire protection engineers, we'd be calling them fire protection specialists. So with that, again, we hope this will rectify the situation we found ourselves in and really enable us to do what we wanted to do and fill some positions. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we have a whole contingent from the fire department here, including Chief Scoggins, Deputy Chief Howard, Fire Marshal Woods, and Ms. Hunanian from my staff. So,
any questions from Mr.
I want to say I did go over this, and I think the revised specifications are outstanding. They solve the problem that I felt existed, and I'm ready to move for approval.
Great. I'm glad that you brought this up, and it seems like it was appropriate, and we appreciate your thorough look at this. And I just want to make sure that we understand that once we approve this series, that whoever becomes a fire protection specialist has to use that title on their cards everywhere else, that it doesn't revert back to fire protection engineer at some point, that they start using that name just because they're in the same.
No, we've gone and amended the salary ordinance to create these new titles. And yes, these individuals, unless they have a background, their education in FPE or their engineering license in fire protection engineering, they will not be called fire protection engineers. They will be called fire protection specialists, and that's their business cards, their their letterheads, anything official that comes as they represent the city.
I move for approval.
Second.
Move in a second. You have roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine?
Yes.
Commissioner Gantis?
Yes.
Chair Perkarian?
Yes. Next item, please.
Job bulletin for approval, police sergeant.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is the request for approval of the job bulletin for police sergeant. As this is a sworn safety promotional position, our civil service rules actually require that this bulletin be brought before you each time it's presented. This job bulletin is consistent with the current class specification for police sergeant. The process is designed to be similar to previous tests that we've done. There'll be a written exam, 2 separate oral boards. The bulletin goes into many of the things a candidate can do to prepare for this, and there's quite a bit of specific information on there to be as fair as we can. Upon the Commission's approval, we hope to post this bulletin September 2nd through September 15th. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. We do have Captain Kirk Palmer, Lieutenant Todd Stokes from the police department here, as well as Ms. Hunanian from my staff and Mr. Kwan, all of whom had a part in this. So,
I just have one. Any comments? I just have one comment. Again, it just is very strange that someone could get 100% on their oral in writing, and then the internal panel will say we don't like them, and they basically are no longer hired. There has to be some. We want to make sure that the subjective and objective issues are done, and we want to go as subjective on these issues as we can. And as objective as we can. But when you get 100% on your written, 100% on your oral boards, and then the internal panel could basically say we don't like you and you're no longer hired. It creates a little bit of an issue as to how we prevent that stigma that the internal board would basically, even though percentages of 35 and 55, it really means nothing, because if the internal board doesn't like you, you don't get hired, right, Mr.?
That's correct, yeah, or the vice versa. If the internal panel could love the candidate and the external panel may decide to fail the candidate. Mr. Chair, I understand your concern, and I will say it is a requirement of the rules that a party, an individual taking the test, pass each component of the examination process.
But this is not passing, saying, okay, out of 35% you get 20 and you pass. This says it's a do or die. You can get 100% on your oral written, 100% on your written, and the internal panel doesn't like you, and you basically are done, right? You don't get hired.
As I said earlier, you would have to pass each of the phases, and that is correct. If the internal panel has reason or cause to fail someone, then that would cause the candidate to fail overall. I will say, Mr. Chair, this is probably the most heavily scrutinized exam that's conducted, as evidenced by all the people that we've had involved in this, including Ms. Hunanian, Mr. Kwan, and the staff, as well as the city attorney. We do our best to ensure that this process is as fair and objective as possible. I believe we've had success in that in past administrations.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve, second. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine?
Yes.
Commissioner Gantis?
Yes.
Chair Perkarian?
Yes. Next item, please.
Report on advertising budgets expenditures April 2008 to June 2008.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is the quarterly report on advertising expenditures. I want to apologize. Ms. Akopian is the one who prepares this report, and she does a great deal of work and research on it. Unfortunately, she is unable to be here. She suffered an injury and is going to be off this entire week. But Nevertheless, I'll do my best in presenting this. And by the way, this report was originally scheduled for the July 23rd meeting, which is why it has that date on it. And some of the references address things that have occurred already in the past. But nevertheless, this report addresses the expenditures that we've done in advertising over the past 3 months, and then which constitutes the last quarter of the 07-08 fiscal year. And we also have the total numbers for the entire year of the budget expenditures in our advertising account as well. The report, again, is broken down into 3 areas. Section A relates to publications or media that relate to various ethnic focus. B section deals with specific fields, professions, and Section C deals with those general advertising sources. And as you can see, we try and spend our money wisely, but we try and spread it around amongst the appropriate media. Also part of this report is what we call an applicant tracking system report, which is towards the back. And basically, per the Commission's instructions, we've tried to get a general sense of where people are finding out about our jobs. And we have this report for the past 6 months, from January 1st of 08 to June 30th of 08. For those who were applicants for city jobs, and then the next page focusing on those who were actually hired for the city jobs for that period of time. And so it gives you a general sense of where people are finding out about our jobs. And once again, if you look at our applicants, most of them are coming off of the City of Glendale's website. By every survey that's ever been done, that is the most heavily visited portion of the city's website, even more so than city council agendas and things like that. So, no comment. This report also has our report on the Google AdWords, which focus on keywords, and every time either City of Glendale, Glendale jobs, and other terms are addressed, they keep track of that and charge us a couple of pennies each time. We also want to update you on some of the things that have transpired relative to our other non-traditional media efforts. The mobile billboards effort was launched a few months ago. I'm sure some of you have seen the little trucks driving around the city of Glendale and Burbank with our advertisements on it. They're bright red trucks. You really can't miss them. And we have a very good arrangement with that company to give us essentially free advertisement. The second bullet here addresses the production by Vahe Babayan, who prepared a 22-minute sort of docudrama on focusing on careers in the Glendale Police Department. It was just completed right at the end of June, and we had a screening the other night, largely for the staff that were part of putting it together, and some of the people that were featured in the production. It's a very, very nice production, and really gave a good representation of the police department and what it means to be a police officer in Glendale. Additionally, we were at the cruise night a few weeks ago. The staff was there conducting a recruitment booth. And another item, we're currently working on a TV commercial focusing on careers in fire service. We have, again, another independent producer who's working with Chief Scoggins and the staff on a video, again, which we hope to send out to a lot of the local media, Channel 6. With that, a lot of information here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. So,
Any questions? Dantas? Okay, thank you for the report. We appreciate it, and the only thing that I would say is that now that we have, and first of all, thank you so much for the percentages, and I know it takes a lot of time, but I think it really focuses the staff as to where they need to go. I would say that if something is not working, drop it. Go with something that works. I mean, something that's 0.03 is not working, and depending on how much you spend on that, you probably want to drop that source and go with something else and advertise. That's how you would know that you're doing better. So,
Chair Karen, the interesting thing is that the things that are most successful in getting people to apply are those that tend to be either free or very low cost. And it's largely the web, and it's largely professional associations that have newsletters, online newsletters, and things of that nature, where you can get the information out fast in a very targeted fashion to those individuals. And so it's a very big change in the way we do advertising now.
Great, that's great. Okay, what's next on the item?
Agenda forecast.
Mr. Chair, the agenda forecast is here before you. We do have 3 items set to be addressed on August 27th. I've already heard your desire to move the legal opinion on the authority of the Commission to investigate to September the 10th. Is there anything else you would like to move or add?
Certainly, sir.
Yes, your first thought of moving the legal opinion, I think we ought to move everything to the meeting of the 10th, since we're going to be missing a commissioner, especially when we consider the rule amendments and whatnot.
That's probably true.
So I suggest moving all of that and perhaps looking into canceling the meeting of the 27th.
When we move that, I think that's actually a good idea.
Mr. Chair?
We can leave the report on hourly employment on the 27th and just move consideration of rule amendments to the 10th, so we have something on the 27th.
Well, assuming there's something of substance other than that on the...
Mr. Commissioners, I'll be monitoring that, but I do know of at least 3 items of a timely nature that we'd like to have addressed on August 27th.
Then let's just leave reports on hourly employment, but the legal opinion and rule amendments should move to September 10th.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, how many rule amendments are we going to be considering?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gantis, for this first meeting, what I understood from the chair was to bring back the items that were brought before the council last time that were not adopted, which I plan to do that. There are other things that have come up that I think need to be looked at, and I don't know if you'd like to look at everything all at once or what. I'm not sure I'll have time to have everything, but there is somewhat of a laundry list of things that...
My concern is that I'm anticipating this legal opinion taking, that we want to do both things on the same day. That's my...
We can actually do the rule amendments on the 24th this way.
24th of September.
24, because it will take us, I think I have some other recommendations before what we've had, and I'm sure some other people will have some recommendation as to rule changes as to how many days it takes to appeal or whatever else they want. So maybe it is a good idea to take that amendment issue on the 24th. That gives us enough time to actually review everything.
That would be very helpful. So.
Okay. And one thing I would ask, though, Mr. Doyle, would be that on the 10th, if we can at least get the recommendations, those 5 or 6 or whatever items that you're bringing back, plus a few other recommendations given to us, so we would have enough time to review them.
Okay. I'll
get those to us ahead of time if you can.
I will do my best.
Okay. Or within a week before the 24th at least.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I need some clarification on the item related to the opinion related to the power of the Commission to investigate harassment and discrimination. At the meeting of July 9th, you said you no longer needed that you wanted to change that to an opinion of the authority of the Commission to hire outside counsel. So you want one, both, or none? None would be nice.
You did one on the authority to harassment and or discrimination, did you not?
I did.
I had
I
understood.
mean, not specifically related to that, but in
But
general.
the opinion was as to the chief examiner's duties and or extent of what the Civil Service Commission could do.
Right,
And
That's the 2003,
that's the 2004,
2004.
or well, the previous opinion that Mr. Braden had written. And what we wanted to do was review that and also and discuss all the issues surrounding that and or in addition to that add that we wanted to see what is our right to ask for an outside opinion on the issue of the ability of the Civil Service Commission to investigate issues relating to Civil Service Commission. And we can explore that a little bit more, but we wanted this to be general enough that we can actually encompass it. But I do understand that you want to get some direction as to what you would write as an opinion. You had a previously written legal opinion, and you probably want to review that and make sure that that's exactly what you want. And the second thing is our ability of hiring outside counsel, and what's the procedure in doing that, if we do have the right to do it.
Okay,
Right?
right.
Yeah, Mr. Devine?
outside counsel for the purpose of,
Investigation.
No, not so invested. I would think providing counsel and/or representation to the providing counsel to the Civil Service Commission upon request. I think I want to leave it real broad again. If you just do investigations, that might be.
well, I thought, earlier we were talking about the ability, yes or no, whether we can do expanded investigations. So I think that needs to be included in the,
Yeah, and I think that's really, what is our right under the rules and under the charter for us to investigate? What can we investigate? And you had already given a report on that, and maybe even be more precise, and to top it all off, what is our right, and I think that's not just investigate, what is our right to ask for an outside counsel to review a particular issue? Can we do it or not, yes or no? And if it is a yes, what is the procedure in doing it?
I would think review, but I would think the broader issue of representation would be.
Broader issue of
So
representation.
we can be into that broad area,
Sure.
which would include what you say.
Okay.
Mr.
That's
Chair,
what Mr. Cantor said.
so we would need to change how this is written.
I wouldn't say investigation, harassment, and or discrimination. I would say legal opinion or authority of the commission, period, and the authority of the commission to hire outside counsel, period.
Perfect.
Those two
I agree.
And this way, then we can discuss everything else. But I think Mr. Braden got enough input as to what he needs to do on it.
I do, thank you.
Anyone else? Anything else we need to add, we need to take out? No? Okay. What's next item?
Reports and information, past due employee performance evaluations.
Okay, like we have done in the past, maybe Mr. Devine wants to read the ones that don't have any past due employees, and the ones with X marks don't have any past due. So I'll let you read those.
well, Mr. Braden's office gets a gold star, city manager's office, city treasurer's office, development services, Glendale Water and Power, human resources, Mr. Doyle, planning department, police department, and public works. And I guess there's a number here, a few that are quite a few days past due. One of which, where they've got the second notice, is community development and housing, information services, and the library department.
I have to say that consistently, over 300 employees, public works, police, and fire have been just outstanding in consistently, month after month, providing timely employee evaluation. So I want to thank them for that.
The fire is not on this list this time, since we have the chief.
Oh.
We could make that little.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say fire?
You did.
Oh, you know what?
They normally are.
I take
You're right.
that
They
back.
normally are.
Stoggins. maybe you'll have a track record of 4 months from now. Well, I'll say that about your department as well.
No, but let's be fair, they have always, lately, been always on this. It's like one of the
That is
first
true.
or second time. However, since the chief was here, and I could appropriately put that in there, I note that, I think, in GWP, of course, is clean, so we have the director here. I like those little digs, so.
You can blame Mr. Ganthus later. I was going to
sure.
let that slide. Thank you very much. What's next?
Civil Service Commission and our staff comments.
Any comments? Anyone? Okay. What's next?
Closed session.
Okay. We will adjourn into closed session.
But I believe we will be reporting out of closed session in the public session, but that will not be televised. Is that correct, Mr. Brady?
I would anticipate your reporting out on the first 4 items listed, but not on the 5th one.
Okay. Let's.
Again, though, in public, but not on TV.
That's correct.
Okay. We're going on into closed session on the first 4 items. Are we to take them
We
one
want
at a
to do
time?
an individual.